Yesterday, Rolly and I decluttered the garage significantly. We had a whole lot of stuff in the garage from when we moved that we haven't just had the time or the desire to deal with. With moving, you probably know, you just get to a point where you're like, I cannot make any more decisions. I don't even know where I'm going to put all of this stuff. So we had piles of rubbish and old stuff that we didn't need anymore and clothes to donate, and I just took a carload of baby clothes and baby toys and old books and that sort of thing off to the charity bin. And it was hard when we cleared the garage out, and it was really nice to have the garage kind of a lot more empty. There's still quite a bit in there that needs to be unpacked and dealt with, but we got through like more than half of it, and we can now actually fit a car in the garage, which is really cool. And it felt really, really freeing to put that stuff out of the garage and make that space. But the actual part where I had to drive that stuff over to the charity bin and put it in the bin was hard. The bin that I went to is at Coles, and I had to go in and get a couple of things from Coles. So when I came back, I realized that like one of the little slippers that we had not made it in the bin. Somehow I dropped it and it was sat underneath the bin, and I burst into tears thinking that the poor slipper wasn't with its friend, like it had got separated. So I picked it up and I gave it a kiss. Weird. I still feel a little bit sad because I'm saying goodbye, and this is the problem that I have with decluttering and the KonMari method and everything. Those things bring me joy. I enjoy, like, looking at those baby clothes reminds me of when my babies were little, and that's joyful. But if you keep them, then like you've got to find somewhere to put them. And you know, part of life is growing and changing and evolving. You know, there are some things that you might keep, and I did keep a few of my favorite things, and I put them in their special memory boxes, but holding on to those sort of emotional things sometimes can stop us from growing. And you know, we surround ourselves with those things sometimes to protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe, and that can be living in the past. Sometimes that version of minimalism that revolves around decluttering and getting rid of stuff, basically, like, it's kind of like the dieting version of owning stuff. So we can get caught up in this idea that we need to only own a certain amount, or that we need to restrict ourselves in what we own, or that we're a bad person, or that we're not strict enough with ourselves if we buy things that we need, or if we can't make a decision about what to keep, or whether to keep an item or to throw it away. And I also read an article once about a guy who was really had a problem with minimalism because he grew up with nothing and his family was really poor. So the idea of throwing something away that you think you don't need anymore that you can purchase again didn't really resonate. Acquiring those things was hard enough in itself. And that brings me to my point, is that perpetuating the throwaway culture that we live in, and we are all raised to be consumers. Like, we live in a world that is set up, the idea is you go to work, earn money and spend it and buy things. When you don't want that thing, or that thing seems old now, or it's not useful anymore, you throw it away and you buy a new one or a better one, and you continue that process. And that is kind of like, you know, and on the flip side, we're all talking about climate change, and we're all talking about how we need to do things differently, and especially after the bushfires in Australia and all the significant losses, and everybody sort of talking about how this is our opportunity to change and to do better. We all know in our hearts that consuming stuff is the problem, and that is like, you know, economic recession. That's what they say to do: spend stuff to grow the economy and to keep the economy moving. And if we do that again, we're only going to get more of the same. And you know, they say, you know, you use your dollars to make the change that you want to see in the world, and that's also true. But the thing is, going from buying these things to buying those things is making a change, but it's not really making a change. What we need to do is step out of that cycle of consumption and consumerist culture. I'm so indoctrinated myself that I actually don't know what the answer is, but I do know that buying less overall, living within your means, slowing down and actually appreciating the relationships in your life and taking advantage of like free things, all that basic simple stuff. Experiences are always better. Like shopping shouldn't be like the default thing that we do, or working to earn to spend isn't. I just think that we need to step out of that somehow. Spending quality time with our loved ones should be what we work towards. And I think we all intrinsically know that. There is such a massive movement for people wanting to step outside of the 9 to 5, start their own businesses. There's the financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement. People are wanting to figure out ways of earning money without actually having to physically be somewhere so they can enjoy more of what life has to offer. And travel. There are places in the world that people want to go to where they're having over tourism, because people know, we've all realized that what we really want is experiences. We don't actually want to just constantly work. And the reason why we buy stuff is to soothe ourselves, because we feel stuck with work. And I know, look, don't get me wrong, I totally get it, because here I am. This channel is a business. It's like, hopefully you guys who are watching this will one day become my customers, in the sense that you might want to join my programs and do coaching with me around how to implement a slower lifestyle. And that's great. But that's like hopefully me also stepping out of that requirement to work 9 to 5. Look, I'm not saying everybody needs to step out of the 9 to 5. Some people really love that, and sometimes 9 to 5 actually provides more freedom than having your own business, because often having your own business means a lot more work than just 9 to 5. It's 24/7. And that freedom of 4 weeks annual leave, where you can actually step away from your work or from your job and actually have a break, and all of that, there is something to be said for that as well. But anyway, that is kind of like a side issue. But my point here today is that needing less and living within your means and stepping outside of but be conscious about what you buy, and not to get caught up in fashions and trends, and not to buy things to soothe some other emotional thing. Because look at me, here I am today in tears because I had to donate baby clothes. So just be mindful, like everything that you buy and everything that you own you will become attached to it in some way, and you will eventually need to deal with it when it's time to let it go. And the stuff that you own represents a monetary value, it represents an emotional investment, and it represents time and effort that goes into thinking about buying it, keeping it and storing it, using it, and throwing it away or donating it. I just wanted to share that with you today, just to let you know that if you find decluttering really hard and letting go of certain items really a big emotional challenge, there's nothing you're doing wrong. It is a hard thing to do, to let go. But for your personal growth, it really is important to find it somewhere in you to let those things go, so that you can move on, and so that you can be present in the new moments, and so that you don't live in the past, so that you can be the mum of the kids you have now. Because I don't have babies anymore. I can't continue to think of them as babies. I have a toddler and a preschooler, and that's exciting too. And remembering that the future is also really exciting. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day to watch this video. I hope it's helped you in some way, and I will see you next week.